Hey, it's Stacy. I just wanted to share some stuff I was reading and it just affected me so powerfully, so I wanted to share that with you today. I was reading in 1 Samuel 18, and a little bit of the backstory before we get to that part is it's about David and Saul. And if you remember, David is the one that went up against Goliath, and then Saul was king. Well, 1 Samuel 18, Verse 10, it says, "The next day an evil spirit from God came forcefully upon Saul. He was prophesying in his house, while David was playing the harp, as he usually did. Saul had a spear in his hand, and he hurled it, saying to himself, 'I'll pin David to the wall.' But David eluded him twice." So here's a little bit of the backstory. Saul is king. David is in the king's palace playing the harp for him because Saul would be tormented with this evil spirit. David would play his harp to help relieve some of that torment. So while he's playing the harp, Saul decides he's going to try to pin David to the wall. I don't want to read too much into it. I'm not going to say he was trying to kill him. I don't think it'd be too big of a stretch to say that, but we won't say that now. Definitely later on in the story, Saul is trying to kill David, goes to great lengths to try to capture him. But at this point, all we know for sure is that Saul is trying to pin David to the wall 2 times with the spear. And David eludes him both times. Here's the thing that is so incredibly perplexing to me and fascinating at the same time. The next verse, so I'm in 1 Samuel 18, verse 12. "Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with David, but had left Saul." Saul was afraid of David. Did you catch that? Saul, as in King Saul. As in the guy who had all the chariots and commanders, or everybody under his command, the guy that could do pretty much anything he wanted, was scared of the guy that came in and played the harp for him. Kind of odd, if you ask me. No, wait. It's very, very odd, if you ask me. The king is scared of his harpist. Why? What would cause him to be scared? Someone in that position, that stature, to be scared? Kind of a servant boy. Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with David, but had left Saul. Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with David, but had left Saul. This was back before the time of the Holy Spirit, where anyone who accepted Christ could have the Holy Spirit live in their own heart. So here is David, who has God with him. And Saul sees this, very obviously can tell that God is with him. In fact, that was a big part of the jealousy, because people were crediting David with killing thousands and Saul just a few, and it doesn't really go so well with the king. But like I said, here is Saul, who's trying to kill David, or at a minimum trying to pin him to the wall with the spear. And it seems to me that David should be petrified. Here's a man hurling a spear at him. But the one who's scared isn't the one who almost is pinned. It's the one who's trying to do the pinning. See, I know it sounds really early to be talking about this already, that in a few days we're going to send our kids out and they're going to come home with lots of candy. But not long after that, we're going to be celebrating the most magnificent birth ever. We'll be celebrating the birth of Emmanuel, God with us. Because as you look at 1 Samuel 18, Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with him. You think about Emmanuel, God with us. Think about how powerful that is to have God with us. It's enough to make a king be petrified of the person playing the harp for him. This is no small thing. I'll be back again next week. I'm going to be sharing a little bit more of my thoughts on some of this stuff that I think is just radical, a little bit backwards. Backwards that a king would be scared of his harpist. Backwards, perhaps, that we should savor Christmas, enjoy it, relish it, while the kids count down, eager for the day to arrive where all the presents are going to end up under their tree. So often we as adults count down. But when we count down, we're counting down, waiting for it to be over, waiting for the in-laws to go back home, waiting for life to return to normal, whatever it might be. But what if this year we could savor it? No, I mean like savor it. Savor it like we do a really big feast where we sit and we chew on the meal and enjoy and relish. I think it's possible. In fact, I know it is. So next week I'll be sharing a few little tips that I've learned. Little things we can be doing to help us savor and to relish the fact that God is with us.